Hi, I'm Paul Manning, the Baptist World Aid Church Relationship Manager for Victoria and Tasmania. I'd like to thank Pastor Tim for the opportunity to join you today. I'm looking forward to next time when we can actually meet in person, but for today it's online. I'd like to start by sharing some stories which have been passed on from Baptist World Aid Christian partners in the field. First, there's Ruth and her family who live in Kenya. When they first heard of this disease, which was killing people around the world, as a mother, Ruth was very worried. She knew, given their situation, they were particularly vulnerable. Ruth says, "I had no hope of living. I thought our life had come to an end." But then an organisation which had been very key in helping Ruth, her family, and their community achieve quality lives came to them with words of hope. They taught them how to protect themselves from the pandemic and educated them on health matters by using the public address system and through household visits when it was safe to do so. Also, Ruth and her family were given mouth masks and hand soap, and they were taught how to wear the masks as well as how to wash their hands properly. Ruth says, "With all the information and help we received from ADS Eastern, thanks to your support, I feel like things are normalised. We are keeping safe and everyone in my family washes his or her hands. I no longer feel that we are alone because there are people walking on this journey with me together." Then there's Kasuli. He's 37 years old and lives in a very remote area of Nepal with 4 family members. Most people living in his community are poor and vulnerable to disaster. Before coronavirus, his family primary income source was through daily labour work. But after the nationwide lockdown, the primary income source was cut off. They could not go out, which meant they could not work. His family had very little savings, but with what they had, they were able to manage to feed everyone for 2 weeks. Kasula says, "Initially, I thought that the lockdown would be short, but as it continued to extend, it became more and more difficult to feed my family." Kasula and his family were not alone. There were about 300 families in their areas who were struggling in the same situation. Fortunately, they received emergency food rations to help feed their families. That included 12 kilos of rice, 2 kilos of dal, 1 pack of salt, 1 litre of oil, and hand soap to help them stay safe from coronavirus. Kasula says, "I am thankful for your support and Baptist World Aid's Christian partners for the timely supply of the food package." You know, listening to Ruth and Kasula's stories, it tells us that we weren't alone in our experience of the pandemic. And although we've done it tough here in Victoria, there are people worse off, particularly those who are already experiencing the challenges of living in poverty. It's somewhat of an understatement to say that 2020 was a year of change. So much changed in 2020. Even though we've said goodbye to 2020 and are moving into 2021, change still continues and uncertainty for the present and the future remains. This is why, as we look into 2021, it's so important to be looking for hope in the right place. If we only look at the here and now, where we find ourselves, our current circumstances, we will be left with a sense of hopelessness. If we look for hope, for a future, for certainty, then we need to be looking to Jesus. Jesus gives us certainty. We're told Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever in Hebrews 13:8. Jesus gives us hope and a future through his death and resurrection. And through his life example, Jesus gives us a way to live no matter what circumstances we find ourselves in, even during a pandemic. Jesus shows us we are to live a life of love and hope. Now, Jesus didn't only model living a life of love and hope, he made it clear his followers were also to live a life of love and hope. I'm going to read from Luke 10, verses 25 to 37, so follow on with me. On one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. "Teacher," he asked, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" "What is written in the law?" he replied. "How do you read it?" He answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." "You have answered correctly," Jesus replied. "Do this and you will live." But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, "Who is my neighbor?" In reply, Jesus said, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he travelled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey and brought him to an inn and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. "Look after him," he said, "and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have." Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? The expert of the law replied, "The one who had mercy on him." Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." In Matthew, Mark, and Luke, Jesus identifies the greatest command as love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Now, we heard from the reading, this is the answer that an expert in the law who was testing Jesus gave. Annoyed when Jesus confirmed that he had given the right answer, the man continues to bait Jesus by asking him, "And who is my neighbor?" So Jesus tells the parable of the Good Samaritan, and it is through this parable or story that Jesus tells us that we find out how to live a life of love and hope. We're told that a man was traveling on his own, minding his own business, when he was attacked, stripped naked, and left to die. Clearly, this man was a victim of injustice in that his basic rights were violated via the unprovoked, violent attack by others. The attack was unfair and undeserved, and through no fault of his own, he was beaten and naked and half dead. The man was disempowered, and he was degraded and humiliated and pushed aside and left to die. And to add salt to the wound, 2 men, a priest and a Levite, 2 men who should have known better, who should have done better, walk past him. Their actions only reinforcing, almost validating, the injustice already experienced by this man. No love was shown, no hope was given. Unable to help himself, the man became trapped within the circumstances into which he'd been pushed. The man needed someone else to see the injustice and its impact on him, to show him love and give him hope. Ruth and Kasula needed the same, didn't they? Unable to help themselves, to help their families or their communities. They needed others to see the injustice and its impact to show them love and to give them hope. And praise God, through Baptist World Aid and their partners, others did. Jesus makes it clear, to live a life of love and hope, we need to not only see injustice, we actually need to do something about it. We need to act. We need to act. We need to be practical in our response. We need to respond to the immediate needs of those needing help, as well as provide support which helps them to move forward into the life that Jesus planned, to live life to the full. The beaten up man continued to experience injustice because two men, the priest and the Levite, both were top roles within Jewish culture. They did nothing. They left the man lying there, watching the sandals of others walk by, unseen, until out of nowhere someone stops. They see the injustice. They walk over into his life and literally saves it. He's shown love and he's given hope. A good Samaritan intervened. He did something. He acted. He gave the man a helping hand up and out of the unfair, undeserved circumstances. Putting it in today's language, he stops his car, he jumps out and runs over to the man, he picks him up and puts him in his car, drives him to the nearest hospital. It's a private hospital, so pays for his care, and then he comes back to check on him and pay for any remaining amounts that are outstanding. The Good Samaritan, the one who stopped, got his hands dirty. He literally got blood on his hands and dirt on his clothes. We need more people willing to get their hands dirty. Now, that's an easy thing to say, isn't it? We can easily agree as we all keep walking. We'll listen to Ruth's story, we'll listen to Kasula's story, we might even pause to do so. But as we listen, we're distracted by our own life circumstances. We don't really see. And in the end, we just keep walking. We don't act. The more challenging thing is the do. That is, we need to be people willing to stop, willing to see. We need to be people willing to act, willing to get our hands dirty. We need to be people showing love and giving hope. We need to be people loving God and loving our neighbour as ourselves. Remember, Jesus told this story in answer to the Jewish lawyer's question, who is my neighbour? In the end, Jesus' answer is simple. It's everyone. Everyone is your neighbour. There's no exceptions. And with this answer, Jesus makes the point that living a life of love and hope means that we need to treat all people equally. There's no exceptions. Jesus does this by making the Samaritan the hero in the story. Something you may already know, there was long-held animosity, almost hatred, between most Jews and most Samaritans. Both despised each other. By making the Samaritan the hero, Jesus makes the point that we're to treat all people equally. There's no exceptions on who we are to act justly towards, to show mercy to love and to give hope. Even our enemies are included in the all. There's no exceptions. All people are our neighbour and potentially need us to show them love and give them hope. This means our neighbour is not only the people that we like, our family, our church community. Our neighbour is not only the people living next door, up the street, or the people living in our suburb or our city or our country. Based on Jesus' definition of neighbour, it includes people we like or don't like, who like us or don't like us. It includes people who are local as well as people that are global. This means that we do need to think beyond our borders. We do need to think global. We do need to show love and give hope to people whom we probably will never meet. And that's where Baptist World Aid comes in, with the vision to be love and end poverty and give hope. We believe that poverty is caused by a breakdown of relationship at every level, a breakdown of relationship with God and with others and ourselves. And this is why Baptist World Aid chooses to show love and give hope by fighting the injustice of poverty in many different ways. Whether it is the emergency relief that's provided during a disaster, or the creation of the ethical fashion guide, or livelihood projects that help struggling families grow their income through sponsorship. Baptist World Aid is all about helping you show compassion, to be love that will help end poverty in our broken world, to give those trapped in unjust circumstances freedom and hope. So how can you be involved in Baptist World Aid in a meaningful way, in a way that does just that, that shows love and gives hope? Well, you can vote with your wallet. There's a whole lot of sales happening now, and you can actually take this opportunity to use the ethical fashion guide when you go shopping, to help you make an ethical decision, to help you buy your clothes from brands that are actually doing more to protect their workers as well as to protect the planet. You can make contributions to an emergency relief fund when the need arises, when disaster strikes. You know, an example of the most recent one is the Beirut explosion response, where financial acts of love and hope saved lives by helping provide emergency food and water, health care, as well as livelihood support to the survivors of the explosion. And of course, an ongoing way that you can help, that you can be part of what Baptist World Aid is doing, is through child sponsorship. Sponsoring a child through Baptist World Aid not only changes a child's life, it changes their family's life. It changes their community, their village. The child's whole community is enabled and empowered to move out of poverty and, importantly, stay out of poverty. As a community, they experience love and they are given hope. Let's look now and listen to Boshiki, Maza, and Malika as they talk about what sponsorship has meant to them, as well as their experience through the pandemic.
আমার নাম বৈশাখী, আমার বয়স 15 বছর, আমি বাংলাদেশে বাস করি।
My name is Masa. I am 10 years old. I live in Uganda.
ជំរាបសួរ ខ្ញុំឈ្មោះ Molika មានអាយុ 14 ឆ្នាំ រស់នៅក្នុងប្រទេសកម្ពុជា នៅមុនពេលដែលគម្រោងអង្គការមិនទាន់ចូលមកដល់គ្រួសាររបស់ខ្ញុំក៏ប្រកបមុខរបរកសិកម្មតិចតួចហើយពួកយើងអាចទទួលបានផលពីការធ្វើកសិកម្មនោះទេដោយសារឪពុកម្ដាយរបស់ខ្ញុំគ្មានជំនាញច្បាស់លាស់ក្នុងការធ្វើកសិកម្មធ្វើឲ្យពួកយើងគ្មានអាហារបរិភោគគ្រប់គ្រាន់ជួបប្រទះនឹងជំងឺជាញឹកញាប់
Irai piudalia chama esangon alanikane amate SJ esangon.
তখনকার কথা মনে পড়লে এখন আমার খুব দুঃখ লাগে কারণ তখন আমরা পুষ্টিকর খাবার পেতাম না বই কিনে দিতে পারতো না নতুন কাপড় ছিল না
Dicoka jodoh vidongo mama nanti guru kepada auto icokane kame olungu
ឥឡូវនេះឪពុកម្ដាយរបស់ខ្ញុំក៏ប្រកបមុខរបរកសិកម្មពួកយើងបានប្រាក់ចំណូលពីការលក់បន្លែនិងសត្វ
pi ajam ide
করোনা ভাইরাস সংক্রমণের কারণে আমার দেশের সরকার স্কুল বন্ধ রাখা সামাজিক অনুষ্ঠান বন্ধ রাখা বাজার লকডাউন রাখা
ការដាក់កំណត់ប្រទេសមានដូចជាមានតែបានញឹកញាប់ដែលសារកម្រិតពី1ម៉ែត្រកន្លះទៅ2ម៉ែត្រ
nyaturu tatadai Satu lagi padur sepuluh. Awang lagi.
ប៉ុន្តែវាក៏ប៉ះពាល់ដល់ជីវភាពគ្រួសារខ្ញុំយ៉ាងខ្លាំងព្រោះតែមិនបានចេញទៅក្រៅរកប្រាក់ចំណូលខ្ញុំភ័យខ្លាចថាឆ្លងមកដល់ប្រទេសខ្ញុំសហគមន៍ខ្ញុំនិងគ្រួសារខ្ញុំខ្ញុំរីករាយណាស់ដែលមានអ្នកគាំទ្រជនជាតិអូស្ត្រាលីព្រោះគាត់តែងតែជួយលើកទឹកចិត្តខ្ញុំឲ្យខ្ញុំខិតខំរៀនសូត្រជាពិសេសអភិវឌ្ឍនៅក្នុងសហគមន៍របស់ខ្ញុំ
Awinyo ibertian di kelowinyo balwa mogo dari mime Australia. Iya kede ginyuto amara buta.
আমাদের সাহায্য করার জন্য অস্ট্রেলিয়ার বন্ধুদেরকে অনেক অনেক ধন্যবাদ আরও অন্য বন্ধুদেরকে সাহায্য করলে তারা উপকৃত হবে
Thank you Australia for supporting us.
I love hearing about the love that they've received and the hope that they've been given because someone in Australia sponsored them. If this is something that you'd like to do, then here's where you need to go. www.baptistworldaid.org.au/sponsorship/ and there you will see that you can choose the country you would like to be involved in as well as the child that you would like to support. You can start this new year with this as something new that you can do, knowing that your actions of sponsorship is contributing to a child, to a family, to a community, to a village being moved out of poverty and being equipped to stay out of poverty. Remember, Jesus said at the end of this parable, go and do likewise. So that's the challenge we're left with for 2021, isn't it? We're left with the challenge that we need to live a life of love and hope. We need to see and we need to act and we need to treat all people equal. I pray as we put this into practice this year that you will also experience the blessing of what it means to love God and to love others as you love yourself. Have a blessed 2021. Goodbye.